So in this video, we are going to see a practical assignment on employee swipe in and swipe out. This basically represents the data which is captured whenever the employee enters the office, or to be more precise, the ODC, and when he swipes out the ODC. So this basically data is captured in the table with the details like whether the swipe is in or out, what is the time, okay, and against each employee this data is captured. So basically based on this data, what are the things or what is the report that we have to generate, we are going to see. Based on these details, we have to generate a report which gives hours per day for each employee, weekly hours for each employee, who worked over the weekend for each employee. Now, if you consider hours per day, in most of the cases, there are validations like, let's say, for example, there are 8 hours or 9 hours as a minimum number of hours that the employee has to sit in the office or do work. So in that case, they want to generate a report who are not satisfying this criteria, right? So that is point number one, hours per day. Then we go to weekly hours. Now, in some cases, there is a criteria that for a week, the total number of hours should be like, for say, for example, it's 40. So in that case, they track that by summing up the number of hours for each employee over a week. And they have certain value, and if the employee is not satisfying or not reaching that number of hours in a week, in that case they generate a report for that, so it will be useful for them. And the third case, which is who worked over the weekend. In some projects, the requirement is like they have to capture the data of the employees who worked on weekend. The logic for that is mainly for the billing purpose. So all these things can be implemented through this code which we are going to see. Okay. So before proceeding further, let's check what is the data present in the two tables. Now, these two tables are like input data. Now, based on that, we have to generate the output. Okay. Now, let's see first of all what is the data present in the input tables. We have the first table. This is TBL employee. It carries the details like employee ID, first name, last name. Okay. So then we'll move to second table, which is TBL employee card swipe. So this table basically contains the data for the employees swipe type and employees swipe time. Okay. So if you consider this particular record right here for employee ID 1, which is Robert King, for this particular employee, the swipe time is 1st September and 8 a.m. Swipe type is in. Then again, there is the next entry for the same employee at 12:30 p.m. The swipe type is out. Then after a break of almost 1 hour, there is one more entry for the same employee, and it's having a swipe type as in and time is 1:30 p.m. and followed by the out entry, which is 5 p.m. Now this is all information related to the input tables. We'll go to the output table now. We want the output in this format. Now if you consider the first name, last name, it's Robert King. Swipe in date time, it's 1st September 8 a.m. Swipe out date time, 1st September 12:30 p.m. And if you calculate the difference, it comes out to be 4.5 hours. There is one more entry. Since there was a break of 1 hour, the new entry is being generated. The first name is Robert, last name King, same employee. Swipe in date time, you can see over here is 1:30 p.m. and swipe out is 5 p.m. If you consider the difference between the two times, like 1:30 p.m. and 5 p.m., you'll find that the difference comes out to be 3.5 hours. So basically, this is the output which we want to generate. So those who want to take this as a test can take a pause of this video, try to write the query for this, and once they have written the query, they can resume the video. Okay, so now let's start with the solution. The solution we are going to explain you in a step-by-step manner so that it's very simple for you and then you get 100% of this logic. So before proceeding with the solution for this, let's see what is CT, because in this solution we are going to use CTE. First of all, what is CTE? CT is common table expression. Okay, CT is common table expression. So which holds the temporary result set that we can use for select, insert, update, and delete. Okay, so now let's see first of all with a very simple example what is CT and how it is used. Okay, so as we saw the definition, it's just the common table expression and which holds the temporary result set. Now let's see with an example how it is being used. So what is the syntax for it? So you have to start with clause and then you have to specify the CTE name. So in our case, EMP in is the CTE name. And this is the list of columns that you would be selecting in the CT. Okay. So later comes the actual query, which is going to form the CT. So in our case, you can see over here, our query is select employee ID from TBL employee card swipe. So this query is our source of input for the CT. Okay. Then next section comes actually selecting data from CTE. So what is your CT name? Your CT name is EMP in. So you can write a query which is like a simple select star from table name. So in our case, it will be like select employee ID from, here you have to specify CTE name, which is EMP in. Okay. Let's execute this. So here you can see the output. Now let's try to put in some more data in CT so that we reach more and more closer to our solution of the problem statement. Okay. So here I have considered CTE, which is named as EMPN, and the query for it is this one. Okay. It does the select employee ID, swipe time, swipe type from the table where swipe type is IN. So this is our source. Okay. So if you now execute this query, you will have the records where the swipe type is equal to IN. So let's execute that. So here is the result. So all the records where the swipe type is IN, we can see using this CT. Let's prepare one more CTE. Okay. Now here you can see only difference is instead of swipe type in, here we are going to say swipe type out. Okay. So at high level, this is our query. So basically the same thing we can achieve without using CTE, but only reason we have used CTE is to just simplify our query, because As you can see, we'll just be writing select from that CT. We don't need to specify any where conditions, nothing, right? It's a very simple, straightforward. So here you can see we have first of all defined the CT with the columns, then we have put the filters like swipe type is out, and then we will execute this CT. Okay. So here you can see all swipe type is out. So here you can see that we can also merge two CT. Okay. Now here we have the first CT as EMP in, which is this one. Okay. And also we have the second CT, which is this one. Okay. So this is our second CT. They are just separated by comma. Okay. So now, as you saw previously, right, how we were using the CT, we were first of all defining it, giving the select query, and then using it, right? But here, what we have done, we have considered this part, the definition of both CTs separated by comma, and then we have used select query. Okay. So this is first one, CT for swipe type is IN, comma. Here, comma is the separator for 2CT, and then we have specified EMP out, and here comes second CT. Later, we are going to use both this CT, EMP in, EMP out, and just perform a inner join. Okay. So now, after you perform inner join on this 2CT, the time, swipe time of this table, EMP in, is nothing but your swipe in date time, and swipe time of this EMP out is nothing but swipe out date time. Okay, so if you execute this both and run, you would see that you have the columns employee ID, you have swipe in date time, and you have swipe out date time. Correct? Now, if you see the actual result, the final target result, we want these two columns, right? Swipe in date time and swipe out date time. As you know, like we are going in steps, we have reached to this level of getting the column swipe in date time and swipe out date time. But have we got these two columns properly? See here, we have got 13 rows, and here we have just 5 rows. So definitely we need to refine our query, right? We definitely need to refine our query. Now let's observe what's happening over here. Let's focus on employee ID 1. Okay. Now firstly, for this particular result set of employee ID 1, we can divide it into two parts. See here where the start time is 8 a.m. We have two results, and second result set with the start time of 1:30, we have got two records. Now firstly, let's figure out why we have got this two records over here. The out time which is there, right? We are getting both the rows. Okay, we are getting the 12:30 also and 5 o'clock also. So both the punch out times we have got over here, right? So which is the correct one? 12:30 or 7? Sorry, 5. Should entry for 12:30 p.m. come, or should the entry for 5 p.m. come? So the correct entry is this one. This should not come, right? So what we can do, we can filter this record by using a subquery, right? By using a subquery which gives us the minimum of these dates, correct? We can filter that out by using a subquery which gives the minimum of these dates, which in this case will give this date. So basically this would be selected. Okay. Now let's move to second set. What is that second set? In second set, you can see punch-in time is 1:30 p.m. and both the records which are selected, but punch-out times are 12:30 and 5 o'clock. Now, which is the correct entry in this case? In case of 1:30 p.m., it should come 5 p.m. Right? This is the correct entry. So this should get filtered out. Now, how do we filter this out? This can be done if we put a condition that swipe out time should be greater than swipe in time. That means we have to, now in this case you can see 12:30 is the out time and 1:30 is the in time, which is not possible, right? So we have to put a condition that swipe out time should be greater than swipe in date time. Now how do we do this? Let's see from the implementation perspective now. So as we discussed over here that we are going to put the subquery. So in the subquery, we are going to filter out this particular extra record, and to achieve this, we are going to use the subquery which is highlighted. Okay. So what is the logic which we have used over here? We have used this our base table TBL employee card swipe, and I am first of all joining by the employee ID to this table, and this swipe type which is there, right? I am putting it as out, and after putting this filter type as out, I am now going to put one more condition, which is the swipe time of this particular table should be get greater than swipe time of the punch in. Okay, so this is one condition I have put, and secondly, I have to consider minimum of swipe time, right? Minimum of the swipe time I have to consider and give it to this, right? So as you recall, we were facing two issues. First is the date which was coming, it had two dates for the punch out, right? So we wanted min. So this can be achieved using this date, min of date. And second issue which was coming is the punch out date was coming greater than punch in date. So we solved this how? We put a filter that swipe time of this table should be greater than the swipe time of the table which has the punch type as in, or swipe type as in. Okay, so both these conditions are covered. Now let's execute this query. So here you can now see we have got the perfect result. Okay, 8 is this time, 12:30 is this time, this is in, this is out. Again 1:30, this is in, 5 p.m. this is out, 9, 12, 1, 6, and similarly the other days 9 and 2. So now we have achieved success in getting these two columns. Okay, swipe in date time and swipe out date time. Let's move to the last step, which is like displaying the employee first name, employee last name, and the difference in the two columns of dates. To get the employee first name, last name, we have to refer to this table, GBL employee. So we are going to join with this table. Okay, and from this table, we are going to use first name and last name. So as you can see over here, there's two particular columns which are there. We have picked from this table. And lastly, we want a difference between these two columns. So we'll use a inbuilt function of SQL, which is like dative. And this dative will give the difference in minutes. Okay. And this we are going to divide it by 60. And finally, that will give us the number of hours that is being worked. Okay. So as you can see over here, you're getting first name, last name. These two columns we already covered: swipe in date time, swipe out date time, and the number of hours which are worked, right? So it's nothing but the difference between these two columns. Okay, so 8 and 12:30, this gives us 4.5, 1:30 p.m. and 5 p.m., which gives us 3.5, and this is 9 and 12, 3 hours. Similarly, this is 1 and 6, difference of 5, and last row is 9 and this is 2 p.m., right? So again 5 hours. So this summarizes our result set. Okay, so we have got what is the output which we are expecting. So now the next part which is there, right? It's from this report, if you have to generate the number of hours per day worked by an employee, it is like you have to group by employee ID and the particular day, right? So in this case, let's say for example, we have employee ID 1. This date which is there is 1st September. You can group by this two and sum up this hours. So which will give you 8 hours, right? So this way you can calculate the hours per day. Next is weekly hours. So in case of weekly hours, you have to sum up all the hours in a week, like starting from Monday to the end of the week. Okay, you can sum up this hours. So in that case, you have to mark start of the week, you have to mark end of the week for each employee, and just sum up that records. So that will give you weekly hours. And those who worked over weekend, so in that case, you can just filter out the records by considering Saturday and Sunday. Okay, those who worked over the weekend, and that records which you get, so you can just sum up for that particular week, okay, the number of hours. So this is how you are going to achieve that. If you want me to make video on these 3 points, like continuing this video and taking this as a base, so please write a comment so that I can prepare a next video by working on these 3 points, considering this as the base. Okay, and please subscribe the channel so that you can get the notifications when the new video is being created. Thank you.